Despite the attention and resources allocated towards preventing homelessness in New York City, the problem persists, disproportionately affecting Black and Latinx residents. Social workers are uniquely positioned to address this challenge. Instead of jumping into solutions, tonight I want to offer a missing analytical lens that social work can provide to get us closer to the root causes of homelessness. In 2018, there were a total of more than 67,000 humans without housing each night in New York City. Even more shocking, 89% of these folks were Black or Latinx, despite these populations making up only 53% of the general population. This is not a coincidence. This is injustice. I'm going to demonstrate the ways that racism shows up in every step of the path towards homelessness, from housing discrimination to displacement to eviction proceedings in housing court. Even when controlling for factors like income and education levels, Black and Latinx New Yorkers are disproportionately impacted. This is not the way we currently think about homelessness, but it's the way we need to think about homelessness. First, Black and Latinx New Yorkers are disproportionately impacted by housing discrimination. The legacy of redlining and other discriminatory housing policies persists today. New York City is the third most segregated city for African Americans and the second most segregated city for Latinx residents in the United States. One study found that, compared to whites, Hispanics were 28% less likely to have a landlord return their calls and 49% less likely to receive an offer of housing. Being threatened with eviction is also more common in Black and Latinx communities. Data from 2017 shows that Black respondents were twice as likely to have been threatened with an eviction than white respondents. Particularly in the face of gentrification, landlords use both legal and illegal means to force tenants out of their apartments. Once an eviction notice has been served and court proceedings begin, housing court, like many parts of the court system, is disproportionately cruel to people of color. Black and Latinx tenants are more likely to lose their housing through eviction than their white counterparts. In 2017, even controlling for neighborhood poverty levels and housing type, an analysis of eviction data found that the second and third strongest predictors of high eviction rates were a high share of Black tenants and a high share of Latinx tenants. And all this is to say nothing about the other interrelated social and structural issues that disproportionately affect communities of color and can exacerbate the risk of becoming homeless. As I've demonstrated, New York's housing system is a system built on racial inequity. As Matthew Desmond so expertly demonstrated in his book, Evicted, eviction isn't merely a result of poverty, frequently it is the cause of it, deepening the hole that low-income tenants fall further into. So what can social workers do about this? We begin by acknowledging that race must play a role in homelessness prevention. At the macro, meso, and micro levels of social work, we need to reconsider how efforts like Housing First, universal access to counsel and housing court, and housing subsidies incorporate anti-racism into their models. We cannot responsibly continue to ignore the ways that systemic racism impacts the path to homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do the judges have any questions?
Thank you. This is a new element to the discussion on homelessness to really bring back in terms of racism and the right to own a home and so on. Do you have any specific suggestions for how to incorporate anti-racism into homeless prevention?
Sure, yeah, there's a couple of things. I was only able to really allude to them in the presentation, but there's a couple of things, including mass incarceration. So thinking about how mass incarceration then, that's something that we already recognize as something that has racism baked into it. And so thinking about then how that's going to affect people's employment prospects once they're out of prison. So thinking about initiatives like ban the box, very effective. Also strengthening housing subsidies and rent stabilization or rent regulation is something that disproportionately helps low-income tenants who are Black or Latinx. So that's another way that we can help those communities, and other ways to generate wealth, because that's also something where we recognize that people who are white often have more wealth that's intergenerationally transferred than communities of color. Those are a couple of suggestions.
Thank you for this well-articulated structural aspect on racism as it impacts housing. It was really well laid out. Some other ideas that come to my mind might be individual development accounts, IDAs. So I'm wondering if you've reflected on IDAs as a potential intervention. The second question I have is more about the life course. As you've articulated the antecedents, really, of leading to homelessness among Latinx and Black African American families, could you put it within a life course context? And what are some suggestions that come to mind, about early intervention?
Yeah, I think
thinking about how I think this is an unseen issue where a lot of families are in shelter, and actually the bulk of homeless individuals in New York are part of families, in a lot of cases the children of families. So thinking about the ways that, like I said, homelessness is going to be impacting later poverty, and so thinking about if you're a child who's growing up in a homeless shelter, that idea of wealth generation, that idea of like all these opportunities that are also making it impossible for your family to get out of the cycle of poverty are going to be negatively impacting you on the I don't know if I have time to answer the other one,